Hey,
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today? How was your day today? Nice. We just talked last night, right?
I believe so. Yeah, it was last
Yeah.
night. I was about to hop off because, sir, sir. I mean, you
Well,
asked
it's
me to
your
come
turn.
on and you had me
It's
waiting like almost an hour. Like, sir, that was mad rude.
Hey,
Um,
listen. It's your turn, FL. The floor is yours. You get to talk as long as you want to. You get to go in depth as long as you want to. So, are you ready?
are you ready? Because you might not like what I have to say. So,
No, listen. 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 I know this is your first time on my platform because we was on my guy's platform last night. But listen, we have respectful, constructive conversations here. So, like at the end of the day, it's never personal. We can always agree to disagree. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. Yeah, I
All
respect
right,
that.
let's get into it. So, I just need you to be 100% honest though on these questions. All right.
Always.
All right. So, have you ever been physically attracted to a man and wanted to sleep with him, but didn't because you felt you hadn't received something you wanted from him or he hadn't earned it yet?
No. And
Okay,
and I'll elaborate. Well,
go ahead.
I might be a little different, but I'm considered what you would call sapiosexual.
All
So
right.
unless you stimulate me mentally, I'm not doing anything with you. So the physical part comes later. Um, so yeah, unless I feel very intrigued, inspired, we have good conversation, it really has nothing to do with what you look like. Any guy that I've dealt with, they don't have a look, a type. It's more so, are we mentally compatible? That's what gets me going.
Let me ask you this. So, obviously you said you're a sapiosexual and there's other people that are sapiosexuals as well. But even
Hmm.
for the women that don't consider themselves to be sapiosexuals, would you, if you were advising like men, would you
Hmm.
say it'll be a good practice to stimulate a woman mentally, um and by stimulating her mentally, and you're not stimulating her mentally only with the objective to get her draws, but just like by being able to stimulating a woman mentally, you can get like the best version of that woman. Would you say that?
Absolutely, but I honestly don't believe in performing. What I mean by that is people should be authentically themselves. So if you are someone who is cerebral, you're someone who loves to learn, you're someone who loves to have new experiences, that's going to come naturally. It shouldn't be something that you're doing no matter what the goal is with the woman. You should be doing it because anyone who's performing cannot act forever. This is why men fail when it comes to dealing with women because they can't consistently keep up the act.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, of course, I would say for your own benefit, you need to be educating yourself, having new experiences, opening up yourself to new things. But it definitely shouldn't be because you're trying to you're trying to reach some end goal.
Right.
If you do it naturally, the women will come.
Right.
It will be like butter. Like it will not be. It's not as complicated as a lot of people make it seem.
Right. I agree. All right. So, second question. If a woman is genuinely physically attracted to a man and wants to sleep with him, is
Mhm.
it wrong for her to sleep with him without getting anything first?
I don't make rules for people. I feel like everyone's morals, everyone's character, everyone's level of what what is good to someone may be bad for somebody else. You know what I mean? I think if we again are being honest with ourselves, if a woman wants to have a situation where sex will necessarily see it that way, but if that person feels okay with that, then that's between the two of them. Um, yeah. I don't think it's my right to police another woman what she does with her body. You know what I mean? If she wants to do it with no strings attached, then that's it. If she has standards where she expects something to be given to her, whether it's mentally, whether it's emotionally, whether it's financially, whether it's physically first, then that's on her.
Do you think, now I'm not, I'm asking you what you think now. Do you think a woman sleeping with a man without getting anything first, do you feel like that woman is being taken advantage of? Do you feel like she's being used? And she
Again,
genuinely
it's
finds the man, she genuinely
mhm,
finds the man physically attractive, and she wants to sleep
mhm,
with him. But I'm asking you,
yeah,
if she doesn't get anything before she sleeps with him, do you, FL, do you think that
uh-huh.
she's being used or taken advantage of?
Again, I'm respecting your question, but the only way I could say yes or no is if the she is me, because someone else may not feel like they're being used because they're coming into it understanding what this is about. I mean, women have been doing this forever. Women and men are just as sexual. Like there's not one gender that's more sexual than the other. So if someone doesn't feel like something's being taken from them by having sex, then that's them. Now, would I feel that way? If you want to switch it to me,
Yeah.
again, it depends. Now, if I felt like I got what I needed mentally, or whether it was something else that stimulated me in some way, and I felt like I wanted to exchange my energy with this person, by all means, unless I feel like I am being taken from the right to say no or yes, then I willingly went into it. Why would I feel used?
All right. So, what do you think about women who want something? So when I say want something, I'm talking about the woman that, you know, they, again, they find a man to be physically attractive. They want to sleep with that man. If they had the opportunity to sleep with that man, they would sleep with him, but
Hmm.
they either need to be compensated first, they need to be, that man needs to buy them what they deem to be valuable materialistic items. He needs to take her on a trip. He needs to pay a bill or several bills. He needs to do something that she wants before, she drops those draws. What do you specifically, FL, think about women that have that mentality and move like that out here?
What do I think of them? I don't judge women. Prostitution is, if that's what you want to consider it, an
No,
exchange
I'm
of,
asking you. Do you see
yeah.
them? Is it giving escort and prostitute vibes? Do you see it in that
Um,
light?
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. I mean, I feel like usually when someone is labeling themselves as a prostitute or an escort, it's understood or it's a conversation. A lot of women have that standard and they don't lead with it, but the expectation is there. But again, I'm not going to tell another woman what she should do. If she feels like she needs to get something else in return from it, that's on her. And I'll tell you, the men in my life who've told me about either their stories or their colleagues or families or friends, the men who trick on women do not complain about this stuff. They know what they're getting into. They have it and they want to partake in it. In fact, there are men who will say publicly that they're against prostitution, but go ask a prostitute. Most of their customers are married men who uphold this image in public, and but in private it's a whole different situation. So again, I don't go around telling people what they should do with their bodies and what they should do with their coins. So it's not really for me to tell them that if they expect something that it's prostitution, because again, prostitution has is the it is the first occupation. Um it is what it is.
No,
It
I
Sex
100%
work is sex work. You know what I mean? It's work. So
I agree with you, and I understand what you're saying. But at the end of the day, a prostitute is a woman that, um she accepts payment to have sex. Correct.
yes.
So whether this woman is, you know leading or being, she's communicating to the man that, hey, I am a prostitute or I
Hmm.
am an escort. She doesn't have to communicate that, those specific words or indicate that, that those words out of her mouth for
Hmm.
her to be any of those things. If that's how you are operating, I like, for example, if a woman is not sleeping with men unless they pay her, she is being a prostitute, whether she wants to acknowledge herself or put herself out there as a prostitute, she's being a prostitute. Can we agree to that?
That's again, the label is not the issue. I think the judgment is the issue. If you
But
want
but
to name her a prostitute, then that's fine, because if you're going into semantics and saying she's exchanging sexual acts for money, that's fine. The issue is I'm not about to pass judgment and make it seem like that's wrong, because that's not my place to
but
say.
I'm I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not asking you if you think it's wrong. All I'm saying is if we agreed, if we all here know that a prostitute is someone that exchanges sexual favors for money, whether a woman doesn't have to be standing out on a track waving at cars for her to be a prostitute. If she is not sleeping with men unless they pay her, she is being a prostitute.
No, I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying, based on how you worded the question, it's implying that there's a level of judgment there. And I could be wrong, but that's my interpretation of how you're
Okay.
asking it. It's
Okay.
coming off as we're trying to other the women who do so. And what I'm saying is that's on them. You know what I mean? And if men weren't willing to pay for it, it would not exist.
Correct. But and I acknowledge what you're saying, but and I want to speak to something you said as well. You said, because like you said, these women, they say that their customers are married men, and there are men that they're more than okay with what we like to call tricking. But just
Mhm.
because a man is like willing to quote unquote trick FL, that
Mhm.
doesn't take away from the fact that that woman is an escort or that woman is a prostitute. There's just a man that's willing to pay for that service, and he's open about paying for that service. It doesn't change what the woman is at the end of the day.
Yeah, and again, I respect your perspective on it. Again, and I'll just say this. I know that the whole label, I'm a type of person, I really don't like labels when it comes to other people. I might categorize myself, but if that's what someone wants to label them, that's fine. But let's make it something very clear. From my perspective, men have always paid for sex, okay? Whether it was physically putting that money in her hands, we are having a conversation of whether women should get something out from having sex with the man, only because feminism has opened the floodgates to men having access to women without marrying them. Before then, you had to pay to get in the draws. You had to marry her. It was required. So now that we've taken that off, because now women no longer are obligated to be in marriages that are toxic and now can have sexual freedoms, now we have a conversation where men are now shunning women for expecting something in exchange. Because let me tell you, another reason why these women may want to secure themselves financially is because women and men do not have the same experience when it comes to sex. It is not an even exchange. If you look at the statistics, the amount of women who get climaxed from their exchange is very low. So no, it's not. You're always going to get yours most likely, and those women will not. So yeah, they're going to want something in exchange. In addition, we're more susceptible to getting to contracting STDs from the sexual act, just based on how our bodies are designed. We receive. So that is another factor that you have to take into consideration. But then let's not forget the most important one: children. If women are putting their lives, not their bodies, their lives at risk every time they engage in sexual acts, it's understandable that some women will want some type of compensation for that risk. I'm not saying every woman does, but I understand those who do.
So, FL, if a man and a woman have sex and a man is getting the coochie and the woman is getting dick, like, is that not a fair exchange? Like that's what like the whole objective of sex is, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I cut off, but I explained that it's not a fair exchange because we're not getting the same experience. A lot of men do not know how to a lot of men do not know how to
I know,
pleasure women
I understand what you're saying.
on
I understand what
anger,
you're saying.
and
So
women are not. yeah, and women are not getting the same experience. So no, it actually, if you break it down to like like the physical act, it typically isn't a fair exchange.
Okay, okay. So most women might not be able to, you know, reach their climax, but at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
you're having sex with a man because you actually want like you actually want the real thing and you don't want to use the toy, correct?
That's not always necessarily the case. No.
So, okay, hear me out.
No,
You
no,
okay? Hear
no.
me out.
Let's
Hear me
be
out. Hear me
real.
out. Hear me
If
out.
we want to have
Hear
a
me out.
mm-hmm.
The goal for both parties is to climax, but when you are doing it with another real human being, for a man, instead of using your palm, you are actually inside of the real thing. For a woman, instead of using a toy, you are actually getting the real thing. So that other person may not be able to help you reach your climax, but you're still getting what you wanted at the end of the day, correct?
Incorrect, because you just first of all you just said that the end goal is for us to both climax. So if the 80% of women are not, that means whatever the real thing is, it didn't do the job. So again, it's not equal. I'm not saying that most women don't, or no women don't. But if you're saying, okay, we both have two tools, and my tool got me the job done, and your tool didn't, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. And honestly, and that's one of the reasons why other people engage in using other things. My point, and then another note I wanted to point out is that some people who I feel are operating in a not the highest self, right? Will look at sex as the goal is the climax. Some people, that's not the goal for sex. In fact, that leads to a lot of problems when it comes to people who are engaging in consensual sex in a relationship, is like putting that pressure of that being it. It's supposed to be about exchanging energy and connection, but that's a whole nother conversation. But carry on.
So do you think, I don't know how old you are, I'm 25, but do you think that or not do you think, have women always been advised to not sleep with men if they're not getting something in return?
No, I don't think so. I think that might be a new situation. But no, if that was the case, then there wouldn't be so many women that are divorcing. There wouldn't be so many women that are unhappy in their relationships. There wouldn't be so many women that are dissatisfied in the dating world, because a lot of women do not lead with needing something in exchange and feeling like that they have to get that, and being told like don't do that. No, if anything, the women I grew up with, traditional Haitian Caribbean background, we weren't even given those types of instructions when it came to sex. It was more so you need to find a good, healthy person to settle down with, to marry. And in order for us to even be considered, there are certain virtues that we had to uphold. So we weren't really going out here just doing whatever. But absolutely not being told like, don't do that. We were honestly, from my background, we weren't even expected to be sexually involved until after marriage.
Okay, I respect that. Is it giving broke woman behavior if a woman is asking a man for money or asking a man to pay her bills that she's not in a committed exclusive relationship with?
Now, why are you gonna change the wording? You told
What
everybody else broke bitch.
Okay, let me read the question again. Let me read the question again. Is it giving broke bitch behavior
Okay then.
if a woman is asking a man for money or asking a man to pay her bills that she's not in a committed exclusive relationship? She is short. That she's not in a committed exclusive relationship with.
um, I mean I don't. Yeah, I don't. I was just teasing you, but because I usually don't use that language. But I wouldn't say that it's broke. Whatever. I just feel like it's tacky and it's unnecessary. I feel like if you're dealing with someone, because I think you mentioned earlier in the scenario, you're sexually involved with this person, you're hanging out. If that man cares about you and knows that you are in need, if, and I said, if he cares about you, he's going to try to do something about it. I don't think a woman should ever be in the position to have to ask. You know what I mean? I feel like if a man actually cares about you and he sees you in that light, he's going to offer. You won't ever have to come asking and begging because that's unnecessary and it's tacky. So that's my stance on it. How does it look? Broke what? Look, I'm gonna tell you, some women they ask for money and they don't even need it. They just it's on the principle. They feel like the man should give them. But personally, me, nah, I'm not ever gonna need to do that because if that person cares about me, respects me, and sees that I am in need, sees that I'm in a situation, they're most likely going to offer. And if they don't, then that's a reflection of the type of people that you're dealing with. You know what I mean? Like the issue is that we don't need to be complaining. We should be elevating ourselves to a level that we are in alignment with the people who are on our level. We should be dating with people who are on our frequency. If you're constantly having to complain that ninjas ain't this and bitches ain't that, it's like, then you need to do something different. You need to change the station. You can't keep fishing in the same pool and expecting to get different results.
FL,
Yeah.
listen, I agree with what you said, but I'm going to provide a little pushback, and I want to hear what you have to say. So, listen, if two people are, like you said, like I was talking about with Chantel, if they are, hanging out regularly, they're doing dinners and lunches and they're going bowling, they're doing activities, but they are sleeping with each other. If
Mm-hmm.
a time in the because life happens, right? In the event life takes place and maybe that woman is not able to meet this month for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
um do I think, if her and that man have that type of relationship that we're discussing, do
Mm-hmm.
I think, like you said, if he really cares about her, do I think he should open his wallet and financially support her this month? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I
but
agree.
okay, but like Chantel and I were talking about, if someone is not able to like make ends meet, if someone is not able to pay like their basic bills, like Chantel
Mm-hmm.
and I were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
should they even be dating in the first place?
Absolutely not. I mean, that goes back to what I was saying. Like, men had to always pay in a sense. So that goes back to back in the day. It was like until you had your affairs in order. I mean, you would have to go and ask that that woman's
A
family.
dowry.
You know?
A dowry.
And yeah, exactly. So it's in the same light. It's like if both men and women, now that we're again, some places in the world, people keep making it seem like America, like United States is everywhere. Like there's plenty of places like my country that it's still very understood that you get picked up from your parents' house. Like you don't leave. I have cousins that are in their 30s are still at their parents' house. So the understanding is that that man needs to come once he's got himself established, he's finished school, maybe he has a house, maybe he doesn't, but maybe he has some money saved up. So absolutely not. The last thing you should be trying to do is pacify yourself or to self-soothe yourself with other people's energy because you don't have your shit together. That's the last thing you should be worried about. You know what I mean? You should be trying to get yourself stable because nobody can really be happy in a relationship if they're struggling financially. And now you're going
Right.
to just create toxicity and trauma to somebody else. You need to sit down or stand up, I
Right.
should say. You know what I mean? So,
So so with that being said, if that man and woman, if they are the people that we're describing, they are the people that they quote unquote have their ish together. They are
mhm,
financially stable. This should not even this should not even be coming up. Cause like again, at the end of the day, despite the fact that we're sleeping with each other, despite the fact that we're dating, at the end of the day, we still don't have any obligation to each other. Like we're still not in a committed exclusive relationship. I'm still living at my place, paying my bills. You are still living at your place, maintaining your own life and your lifestyle. So only in the event that life happens should you be asking for money. But I don't think because you are giving me access to your body, I don't think that as a woman that grants you the right to ask me for money now, or ask me to pay a bill of yours, or just pay your bills. What do you have to say to that?
Um, I completely understand where you're coming from, and this is why I advise young women, because I am older, um, stop sleeping with men. If you're dating somebody, you don't
You're
stand up and say, "Well, we were just dating. I was
FL
never. She
FL
wasn't
FL. Repeat
off."
repeat what you just said. Repeat what you just said. You were cutting out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's all right. Sorry. That's why I advise young women to not engage in sexual behavior with men that they are dating, unless that person has committed to you and there is talks of moving forward, maybe even discussing marriage. You're putting yourself at risk, and actually, you're putting both of you at risk because now you are risking a pregnancy with a woman that you don't even want to support if something were to happen. You know what I mean? This would, if we would not try to take what we can take out of committed relationships and pick and choose the benefits and use them, but then pretend like it doesn't come with its own risk, we wouldn't be even having these conversations. I and this is what men used to do. This is what men used to do. They could not have access to that woman until they married them. Does that mean those men were abstaining from sex? No. They went to the women who were willing to do that. But when it comes to dating, that shouldn't even be on the table because, like I said, there are risks on both ends, unnecessary risks.
So I just want to make sure that I'm hearing you correctly. So are you basically saying that women should practice celibacy until marriage?
I'd say they should. I'm saying if you feel like there is a risk of you, depending on who the person is, where you may be making a lifelong commitment through childbearing for someone that you are unsure of, then it is not worth the moment of pleasure. That's what I am saying. I'm not being unrealistic because I've been there. I don't know how young a lot of the people in the comments are, but I've been there, done that. Okay. The best thing you could do for yourself is assess the risks. And there are plenty of both men and women who are abstinent because of this, because they realize it's really not that deep. Unless I can honestly say that if she calls me up and says she's pregnant and I'm good and I'm not going to stress out, then I'm not going to go there, and vice versa.
I agree with you. So basically you're saying um practice you don't believe people should be sleeping with each other while they're dating, but being in a committed exclusive relationship, that's different, correct?
Yeah, that's
Got you.
different.
Got you.
That's different.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand. And you know what? I can I can agree to that to an extent. I was literally having a conversation with my cousin earlier, and she's a grown woman. She has a child. She's a divorcee. Um and her and I were talking, and I was telling her there are these women out here that are having three, four, five kids by three, four, five different men, but there's also
Right.
women out here that are, you know, being sexually liberated and not only not having children, but not getting pregnant. So I'm like, obviously, these women, it's the same thing for men too. These women and men are obviously doing things that, these other people are not doing. It could just be as simple as practicing safe sex. Like, because like I said, I agree with what
Mm-hmm.
you said, but in reality, people are still going to be sleeping with each other while they're dating, and people are still going to be going to the bars and the clubs and the lounges on the weekend and meeting somebody at 10 p.m. and sleeping with each other at 2:30 a.m., right?
And yeah, there will always be those people. I don't think that we are all supposed to do the exact same thing. I mean, there's diversity for that reason. What I'm saying is the people who are up in arms and concerned, meaning all I hear is men complaining about child support and women having baby daddies. So I can't control men, but what I can do is advise women because that's the group that I'm in, and I tell them, not only will men not a lot of them will tell you they're not going to take you seriously. They judge you because of body count. They judge you if you have kids. then you need to be a lot more selective with who you do these things with. You cannot be out here just doing whatever. It's not because I am sexually repressed or I'm into purity culture. It's because the very people that you want to engage in will shame you for the very behavior that they want you to engage with them. It's so backwards. You want to be able to have access to her body, but you will shame her for it. That doesn't make sense to me. So it's best that you
That's a
guys
fact.
decide. It's best that you guys decide to just engage with the woman that you say is easy and leave, and don't lie and manipulate the ones that you claim are wifey material. Don't pressure her into sex. And then if you're not serious about her, you can move on without creating yet another trail of disappointment. Just deal with the women or pay for it. I mean, that's why prostitution exists. The problem is that we're manipulating people and pretending that you want a real relationship just to get access to them when there are women who are willing.
No, that's 100% fact. I agree with you, FL. That's 100% fact. Um, but I know, like again, like same thing with Chantel. Like you just talked about like the men manipulating the woman and things of that nature. Like are women manipulating men as well?
Absolutely. I think there's toxic people on both ends. But I'll say as a movement, and I'm not saying this because I'm women, it's just the society we live in. A lot of what you see from women is a reaction to what was done. Because if you look back, a lot of the men that always want to romanticize how things were done in the 50s, 60s, my grandmother, okay, so what has led this to where we are now? Why are the women pushing back? Because it is in fact a pushback. They've seen that when their grandmothers or their mothers were doing the things based on what men say that they want, they were used and abused. So what you're seeing now with women taking the reins and learning from what was done to them and inflicting it on men, that is a reaction. It's not right, but you bully, you're gonna get bullied back. You know what I mean?
They're agreeing. The women are agreeing with you in the comments.
I mean, I'm fair. You know what I mean? I'm fair. Like I said, I know that there are men who are manipulated as well, but at the same time, if men were holding each other to a higher standard and checking each other about not using, manipulating, and abusing women, then you would not see women going out of their way to get revenge as much as you do now. Because it's just not. It wasn't an issue before, and it's become an issue now because women have decided not to be on the other end of it anymore. It eventually will balance itself out, but when you have a situation that boils over, at first it's going to look like the pendulum has swung to the extreme. And once it does that, you'll find men actually working on themselves, healing, and we can actually start making our way back to an equilibrium. That's what's happening.
But FL, this is my thing though.
It
I
doesn't make it
hear,
look.
I
Sorry.
hear, I hear and acknowledge everything that you're saying, but
Hmm.
um, and I was telling my cousin this earlier. Um, I think a lot of the reason that um 70% of our children are being born out of wedlock. Why all these children, why it's so like, why majority of these children are being brought up in single parent homes. I
Hmm.
think it's largely more so a sexual irresponsibility thing on not just behalf of the woman, but the men as well. I think that's what's really going on. Like I'm not denying the fact that there are women that are being manipulated and abused, and I'm not denying the fact that there are men that are being manipulated and abused. But for Pookie and Ray Ray to be out here having 8 kids by 6 different women, and Carisha to be out here having 8 kids by 6 different men. Like I don't think that's largely due to um abuse and being manipulated.
Well, if you allow me to respond, the manipulation may not necessarily come from the part, right? If you're saying she has kids by six people, we're we're not living in a bubble. You know what I mean? The manipulation comes from birth, how we are socialized, how we are programmed mentally. So if a woman has been brought up in an environment where she's not um, affirmed, she's not given a sense of self-worth and value, you're going to see her behavior a reflection of that. If
I
she herself has experienced trauma from men in her family or even from women. So it's a lot of healing that needs to take place. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person that they're dealing with manipulated them. It just means society as a whole has a really has us in a chokehold. I mean, a lot of, you could think it's excuses, but that's if you actually study sociology. I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to
I know.
someone in the chat. um Study sociology. That was one of my majors, I know what I'm talking about. Okay, nothing is done in a vacuum. What you see right now was 30, 40 years in the making. So it's not going to correct itself overnight, but conversations like this is a start. But to be in denial about the factors that affect human behavior and make it seem like this person is just ratchet or they're just broken, people aren't born broken. This is part of what we've all co-created together through a lack of healing, through hurting people who and that cycle continuing. That's what we're seeing right now.
So FL
Yes.
over here, I'm very big on accountability, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you know, we've all gone through stuff in life. We're all going through stuff right now. We're all going to continue to go through things in the future. But what I hear like women do 99.9% of the time is think of everything that they could use to justify the actions of other women instead of just being like, instead of just taking accountability and, just accepting that I made the wrong decision, I made the wrong choice, I've made a lot of wrong choices, and the whole thing about accountability and being able to heal. Accountability is being able to look in the mirror and acknowledge that, hey, I made a bad decision, and now I have to suffer the consequences of the bad decision I made, and you accept it. When you accept it, now you can move forward accordingly. But when we just continue, when especially women in our community, when y'all continue to just abuse, these men are they lie, they're this, that, and the third. It just, to me personally, it be sounding like a bunch of excuses to like justify the actions that have been made. And it's not going to help those specific women move forward, and it's not going to help the community move forward when nobody can take any accountability.
I agree. And I'm a big proponent, like, I'm a huge proponent on self awareness. So when I say that society as a whole has manipulated a lot of us, that's not in with the intention of not taking accountability. It's to know the source. Because let me give you an example. If you were a nutritionist or a fitness trainer, I should say, and you have a client who lost all this weight because you told them they need to stop eating the way they're eating and they need to start going and working out because they're sedentary, whatever. If you look at the stats, those people will lose the weight and then for some reason gain it all back and then some, right? We
Right.
all know this. The reason why that happens is because they didn't get down to the root cause. The root cause may not be your fault. That's what I'm saying, but it's still your responsibility to address it. So if you grew up in a toxic environment and you refuse to actually get to the root and say it's because of what I was taught, it was because what I was not taught, you're going to repeat the behavior no matter how much you want to say, I'm going to take accountability. You need to know why it is and then go ahead and start getting therapy. Go ahead and start reading the books. I'm very big on taking accountability because it is your responsibility, but you do also need to collectively give each other grace and have an understanding of empathy of where this is coming from. A lot of it was not our fault, but it is our responsibility to fix individually. So
No, I 100% I 100% agree with you, FL. And when you put it like that, I can back that 100%. Are there any last words, any last things, cuz you got to hear two people talk before you. There may have been some
mhm.
things that we discussed that you didn't touch on. Is there any last thing that you want to touch on before I move on to the next person?
No, I just want to say thank you. I know we just met yesterday. I appreciate the respectful dialogue, and I did learn some things from both the women who came on. I may not agree necessarily with everything, but I feel like growing is my goal, and I can't do that unless I hear different perspectives. So kudos to you. Continue the conversations, and maybe we can all kind of do our part. You know what I mean? Take the information and implement them in our lives and do a little bit better every day. So, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on here, and I look forward to talking to you more. Okay.
Same.
All
Have a
right.
good
You have a
night.
good night.
You too.
She cool, man.